Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kircha. Coming up in today's newscast, the 22nd Knesset officially disbands, sparking landmark third elections in Israel.
We have the scoop on how the city of Tel Aviv is celebrating its 110th birthday.
And get ready because we'll reveal some of the most viral videos from Israel in 2019. Well, it finally happened. No one wanted it, and the nation can't really afford it.
Yeah, but yet another round of elections has still now just been called.
Israel's Day of Dread has arrived. The Knesset has officially disbanded and thrown the country back into elections. And so the vote for the 23rd parliament will now be set for March 2nd of 2020, just 88 days away. And this will be the third election in Israel in just 11 months' time, costing the state an estimated 12 billion shekels total in 18 months. The various party leaders, though, are all spending today slinging blame on each other. Prime Minister Netanyahu is blasting the Blue and White Party for doing everything possible to prevent a broad unity government while attempting to install a minority government with the Arab parties. Blue and White, on the other hand, is shooting back, claiming the whole election is a result of the Prime Minister's attempts to avoid prosecution. The head of the Beit HaYehudi party, Lieberman, says he would support giving Netanyahu a pardon from any prosecution as long as the prime minister were to resign from politics. Well, Netanyahu remains adamant that he's innocent, has the support of the people, and will win big in the next vote. He has, however, informed the High Court that he will be resigning from his other ministerial positions effective January 1st. This is in line with current legal precedent in which ministers step down to address legal charges. The premiership is the only portfolio a minister does not technically have to relinquish. In spite of earlier promises to hold Likud leadership primaries in the event of a third election, Netanyahu loyalists are now reportedly moving to cancel internal elections. Just minutes after the Knesset dissolved, David Bitan took to Twitter saying that he's reached the number of signatures needed in order to convene the Likud Central Committee to hold a secret vote on canceling primaries.
And now joining us with more on the elections, we have political analyst and chairman of the Oz Zionist Foundation, Zohar Tal. This is the third election in under 12 months, 11 months actually. How much is this going to cost the country?
Yeah, so in terms of costs, there are the direct costs of the election day itself, the personnel, etc., which comes to around 300 million shekels. Then there are the parties which are being financed. There's a finance unit per Knesset member that sums up for another few million shekels. And these are the direct costs. In addition to that, we have the indirect costs of the election day is a day off. So that costs around 1.5 billion shekels because as I said, it's a day off. There are the Commerce sees some gain because people are going shopping and going to the malls, etc. But still, it's a huge burden. And if you sum it all up 3 times in 11 months, that's around 6 or 7 billion shekels that are lost.
Now, something that I just want to mention, yesterday we spoke about the rising poverty that we're seeing in Israel that has actually increased significantly in the last year, and many are saying that that's largely because of the lack of a government and the inability to essentially, roll out social programs that are necessary. So can you talk to us a little bit about the impact?
Yeah, so actually many NGOs are being supported by government. When we don't have government, we don't have parliament, we cannot pass the funds that are needed to these NGOs. You stated poverty and NGOs that assist healthcare and things like that. You can also look at orchestras, theaters, many of the museums. Many of these are also being supported by the government. If you don't have government, they don't have a budget, and they're getting a decrease of, 40-50% of their budget.
So is there any hope here? What is going to change this time around? What can we expect to happen?
Yeah, so from a political point of view, we'll see both sides, both right wing and left wing will try to maximize their electorate potential. On the right wing, we have Zehut, we have the new right, and
is Zehut splitting off again? I thought it was absorbed.
Yeah, so days will tell. We'll see that. I assume that they will try to, again, at least Netanyahu will try to make a bloc. Something large as it can. On the right side, on the left wing, we will also have to see what's going on with Ehud Barak, what's going on with the New Democratic Bloc, what's going on with the Labour Party and Orly Levy. All of these can split or can unite. We
have no idea what's going to happen. Thank you.
We will have to wait and see.
All right, thank you so much.
We return to the United States, where the nation is still reeling from the senseless anti-Semitic violence that it experienced Wednesday afternoon. It's a dark day in the Jewish and American community today as thousands of mourners take to the streets of Brooklyn and Jersey City to mourn the brutal murder of 4 individuals in New Jersey Wednesday afternoon.
But after reviewing the CCTV cameras on the Jersey City side, we do feel comfortable that it was a targeted attack on the Jewish kosher deli across the street here.
On the video, they park the van. They exit the van with the rifle, with the long guns in their hand, and immediately begin firing toward the location that we lost 3 of our citizens in yesterday. So there were multiple other people on the streets, so there were many other targets available to them that they bypassed to attack that place. So it was clearly that was their target, and they intended to harm people inside there. Loudspeakers broadcast the eulogies of the 2 Jewish victims in Yiddish to massive crowds who filled the roadways. And heavy police escorts accompanied both processions, one for Mindel Ferenc and one for Moshe Deutsch. The 32-year-old Mindel ran the JC Kosher supermarket where the attack took place with her husband Moshe. And the couple were among the first 10 Hasidic Jews to actually move into the area, opening the store 4 years ago. 24-year-old Moshe Deutsch is then the second named victim, and he was one of the first students at the yeshiva next to the supermarket. He was also a volunteer for the Chai Lifeline, a Jewish organization that aids sick children. As for the third victim, he has now been named as 49-year-old Miguel Douglas. He worked as an employee of JC Kosher and has been described as dedicated, always nice, and always helpful. And finally, the fourth victim is 39-year-old father of 5 and veteran police officer Joseph Seals. He was killed first by the gunman at a nearby cemetery, but leaves behind a huge legacy of getting illegal guns off the streets. And the community of Greenville has since come together to launch a charity campaign for the families of the victims. It can be found at www.charity.com/JCVictims. Now, as for the attackers, the 5th and 6th deaths in this attack, investigators have identified them as David N. Anderson and Francine Graham. And they're also believed to be a couple who've self-identified as Black Hebrew Israelites, a group that historically believes that blacks are the true descendants of biblical Jews and that white Jews essentially stole the religion. Authorities have since found many social media posts that are both anti-police and anti-Jewish. Additionally, Anderson was paroled in 2011 after spending 4 months in jail on weapons charges, and both he and Graham are implicated in another murder in nearby Bayonne County from just last weekend.
Was that from our standpoint, there is no question that this is a hate crime, and anti-Semitism should be called out aggressively and firmly, immediately for what it is.
Now, following the shooting in New Jersey on Wednesday, we're once again reminded of how deadly and toxic racism can really be. For the past few years, one of the foremost organizations fighting against anti-Semitism has been the Students Supporting Israel, or the SSI. And joining us now is Rudy Rachman, Israeli rights activist and the founder of SSI at Columbia University. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So first, your videos have just gone absolutely viral. Tell us a little bit about how you started combating anti-Semitism in the United States.
Right, so I joined the Army in 2011 as a lone soldier in the paratroopers, and when I got out, I started school at UCLA before transferring to Columbia, and that's when I realized that the anti-Israel movement on campus wasn't actually pro-Palestinian. Now, what do I mean by that? They don't actually talk about Palestinian suffering, dying by the thousands in Syria, hundreds of thousands of refugee camps in Lebanon, suffering in Jordan or on the border of Gaza and Egypt. They only talk about Palestinian suffering if it has to do with Israel. And of course, they also take it completely out of context of, yeah, there were 3 wars waged by the surrounding Arab nations to ethnically cleanse the Jewish population, and the consequences of those wars is the status quo that exists today. Now, the status quo is unjust for all sides, and and should end. However, when you take out suffering and you blame it all on the other side, that's kind of what anti-Semitism is. It's finding the suffering, source of pain of the population, and blaming that on the Jews. So I realized that that's what was going on in their minds, but the way that they were spreading it to the rest of the campus is they were using something called intersectionality, meaning finding the minority groups on college campuses and finding their source of suffering, and then saying Israel is either the same thing that you are experiencing or even more so directly causing your suffering. So they'll go to the Black Student Association and say, not only is Israel doing the same thing to our community with Israeli brutality and IDF racism and all sorts of things, but also the New York State Police Department is trained by the IDF to kill black people. Now, we obviously know that these things aren't true, but this is the message that they're saying. And the biggest problem is that the Jews are doing nothing about it.
Okay, so before you continue, I would like to see a clip of one of your videos.
Your people colonized the land.
When did they colonize the land?
In 1948.
In 1948, they decolonized the land from the British.
Oh yeah, so who are the Palestinians? We don't belong there.
The Palestinians do belong there.
No, we don't belong there.
You know why?
Don't
Because
lie.
they're now responsible for the
lie.
crimes that their ancestors did.
Don't lie. Don't try to put that on my people.
I just told you, I believe
Look,
Palestinians should have a right.
Netanyahu and Trump are best friends.
That's
No.
not-
Netanyahu is what you represent.
I don't represent
You
Netanyahu.
represent Israel.
So you represent
Netanyahu.
Abu Mazen?
No, he's not. We don't have a
So
leadership.
if I can agree,
We don't have a leadership.
if I could be fine with
Your
you not
people are
belonging.
terrorists, okay?
Keep going
Israel's
there.
a terrorist
Keep going
state.
there. Keep going there.
Israel's a terrorist state.
All right, so
We see a lot of frustrated anger and kind of animosity there. It doesn't. Is the dialogue always like that, or do you get some nice kind of conversation as well?
So it's usually either two things when someone's anti-Israel. Either they are misinformed and they're open to hearing and having dialogue, and maybe they don't yet right away agree, but I'm able to communicate with them and get them to see a different perspective. Or there are people like the person in this video that doesn't matter what you say, what you show, Israel is the source of evil in the world, and then that's the moment that we need to kind of expose them intellectually and ideologically to show where their holes are in their arguments, and that's when they get frustrated themselves and start cursing and so on.
okay, so that's where I'd like to bring in some, a news story that recently came out. Trump recently signed an executive action that now categorizes Jews as an ethnic minority rather than a religious group. And this has been very controversial among the Jewish community in the States. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your reaction was to that and what you think it means in terms of how it will impact the movement against anti-Semitism?
So there are two things. First of all, we have to understand that Judaism is not a religion, and I say this always. Now, what is a religion? It's a belief system in a God, deity, book, or prophet. So religions start somewhere, and a belief system crosses over different borders, over different nations, and spreads to different people. So if you have an Argentinian Christian, a Nigerian Christian, and a Chinese Christian, totally different people. Maybe they have the same belief, but different histories, different aspirations, and different cultures. Jews are not a religion that crossed over borders. They're an actual native people from Judea that were forcibly displaced from their homeland, that spread all over the world, and in order to maintain their identity, they created a portable suitcase called Judaism, and ism is a man-made thing of Judea, becoming known as Judeans, us, our people, and we packed in our language, our culture, our history, our value system, our relationship to our higher power, and the aspirations of one day coming back home. And that's what Judaism is. It's not a secondary religion, it's our primary identity. Now, that doesn't mean we can't live amongst other societies and be productive.
Right, so why is there backlash against the idea that Jews would be established or considered an ethnic minority? Because that's essentially what you're saying, that
Right.
Jews are, right?
Because a lot of Jews in the diaspora do not understand their own identity. They think Judaism is kind of a secondary thing, and all of a sudden when they're told, no, you're a descendant of a people from Judea, you're the native descendants from this place, like your culture, value system, everything is about this place. We pray towards Jerusalem. We say, next year in Jerusalem, we smash the glass when we get married to represent the destruction of our holy site to one day come back home. Everything that we do has been created in order to preserve who we were, L'dor v'dor and Shana v'Yerushalayim, to come back to Jerusalem. And they don't understand that, so they have an immediate rejection to it.
So if there's any one last message that you could give to our audience about what it takes to combat anti-Semitism, what would that message be? Because we're sadly running out of time here.
So I'll sort of relate it to what happened now with Trump and the legislation. A lot of people see this as like, finally, we have a great accomplishment that now it's official that we're seen as this. And oftentimes the Jewish community and institutions tend to go to the power in order to kind of fix our things. But what we're not focused on is the younger generation, right? College campuses represent the future intellectual and political class of the next generation, those that will be influencers, the future politicians, the future people in TV and business businessmen and lawyers. And that's where the conversation needs to be having. And we're trying to fix things from the top instead of from the bottom. And the bottom will one day represent the top. So passing this legislation may be good on the short end, but if we don't influence the next generation and us as Jews rise up with our allies to be able to take our future into our own hands, then this legislation won't mean much in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, a historical center in Tel Aviv is now catching the eye of real estate investors, but it's not for the reasons that you might suspect. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has the scoop.
Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, and Furla. These are just some of the luxury brands that line Kikar Medina, the largest and most historical plaza in Tel Aviv.
For decades, this neighborhood has been the epicenter of the rich and the famous, the center of Israel's high fashion, and where you come if you want to see and be seen.
It's always been difficult to find real estate in this prime location, but now this area is becoming even more sought after.
Many real estate agents say that Kikar Medina is the best place to invest in because it's the best access to every part of the country.
Right now, Israel has invested in the largest infrastructure project in its history, the creation of a massive network of railway and light rail lines that will connect every part of Tel Aviv and the cities surrounding it.
And one of its main stops is in the Kikar Medina neighborhood, which is why the Clay 18 project by the Israeli company City People is one of the best luxury investments to be made in Tel Aviv.
When a client comes to me and say, where is the best place to invest in Tel Aviv, I always say transportation is the key. Because if you don't have access to the main roads and you have an amazing apartment, it can take you a lot of time to take out of the city. And if you buy an apartment, for example, in Kikar Medina, it's only 5 minutes to get out of the city.
This 24-apartment luxury building offers homes with a range of 2 to 5 rooms and private parking. Every boutique home is just steps away from Kikar Medina's pastoral parks and gardens, high-end restaurants, and top theaters. But best of all, Clay 18 is just minutes away from the Ayalon Highway, the Savidol train station, and a soon-to-be-built light rail stop that offers direct access to the rest of Tel Aviv.
Kikar Medina is actually more than just the epicenter of luxury of Tel Aviv. And lately we see in the last few years a lot of families with children move from the heart of Tel Aviv to Kikar Medina because it's more comfortable and it's actually the best place to invest in Tel Aviv.
The Clay 18 apartments are selling fast, so for more information about the remaining properties, go to clay-18.co.il.
All right, in other news, the holidays are nearly upon us, and with just under 2 weeks left until Christmas and Hanukkah, if you're still missing gifts, we have the answer for you. Joining us now in the studio with some must-buy presents for the holidays is Inbal Buskila, public relations and makeup expert at Jade Cosmetics. Hello. So we already have some presents on the table. I'm very excited
It's
about
a very
this.
ornate display. I'm loving it.
All right, so what are the must-buy makeup products for this holiday season?
Okay, so we took one of our, all the best sellers that we have in Jade, and we combined it into little kits that everyone would just love to have. And it also goes well with just, you want to buy a present for Hanukkah and the New Year's Eve, and you just have so many little options, and it's reduced price, so you can actually get our best sellers, something that any woman would love to receive in very affordable prices.
Oh man, I see your eye in the Aaron, your eye in the products.
I keep thinking, I have a toddler and a toddler as a nephew, and I need to get it. I just scared a lot of people. And I need to get him something. I don't know if he'll be
I don't
into
think
this.
the makeup is the right thing for that.
I don't think he'll be
but I have some makeup that suits your tie and your shirt today, which is
Perfect.
Let's talk about the
so let's talk about these
winter
products.
colors. So this is our Jade Blooming kit, which is one of our best sellers the past few months, and it comes, let's say, with this eye pencil. It's a black jade everlasting that doesn't come off eye pencil that every woman would love. This is like a necessity, right?
Yeah, that's an absolute
This
necessity.
is a total necessity, and the colors are amazing. It's like Yes, it goes really well.
I actually love these colors.
I know.
They do.
And they would work with your tie. So,
And I have something very special for you. And this is for the New Year's Eve. If you want to glam up and look amazing, is this Shimmer Ever Glow Shimmer Kit.
And these are the top selling products right
These
now.
are the top selling products.
Of 2019.
So we put together the special brush that you can use and just highlight. You can go with contouring, you can highlight, and it comes with this gorgeous glittery gloss, which is also like a goldy. So if you're talking about a New Year's Eve look, you have it right there, the New Year's Eve look.
Well, I love these shades. And
no, these are amazing. This is yours, right?
Oh, really? It's for me now?
Is it?
Because I'm actually trying to
Definitely.
teach. I'm trying to learn how to contour and highlight.
well.
So this is very
So
cool.
you have the
And I have
brush, you're all ready. Is that for your wife?
So,
Sure.
yeah, I know. You have a lot of gifts here for your wife.
We
so.
actually have this beautiful icon, jade icon perfume. It's musk oil. This is one of our best sellings ever because, first of all, I really like the fact that this is very small, that it can go in your purse. So you can get
that's a necessity.
You can get a little kit that has everything in it with a little beautiful perfume. This smell is very fresh, very flowery, okay?
I'm actually a huge fan of the
You
jade
should try
perfumes,
this one. You have to smell this. This is really amazing, and it
All right,
comes.
so while I'm smelling this, tell us where viewers can buy these products, and can you get them in the United States?
Definitely.
Okay.
So the thing is we have a website, a global website that sells all around the world almost, and the shipping, is a very quick shipping. It's like between 2 and 3 days. It will go everywhere.
And it's Israeli products to your doorstep in the United States.
These are Israeli products. You're promoting blue and white products, so it is always nice to do. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Inbal.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
All right, now basically the oldest function of the internet has been to share funny and cute videos and memes, but for whatever reason, fail videos, or videos of people embarrassing and hurting themselves, seem to be the most popular.
Well, a hilarious viral video from June featuring an Israeli bodybuilder has now made its way into the Fail Army's top 100 list for 2019. I think you'll see why in a minute. Just check this out.
יוני, עם כל השירים שלך וכל הדאווין, אני מכיר את זאת ויכול לעשות משהו שאתה לא יכול לעשות. יאללה. אתה רוצה לראות? כן. וואלה, אתה לא יכול לשמור אותי בכלום. מה אתה אומר? איפה המדבקה? פה. שים לי אותה בגב. שמת? כן. הלאה, סובב. סובב. אתה מוכן? תוציא אותה מהגב, נשמה. כן, זה מעלה!
You laugh every time you see this,
I do. I don't know why it's so funny to me.
Well, clearly the world sees it as
yeah,
hilarious, but all right, don't work out too hard. That's a lesson here. All right, in this next clip from Davos, Switzerland in December of 1997, we see a recently elected Prime Minister Netanyahu skiing away from an interview and into another person. Look at this video.
וטוב שיש דקה גם לרגע פרטי. אתה תסלח לי, נכון? להתראות, כל טוב לכם.
All right, just casually wiping somebody else on the slopes.
No big deal. But finally, our last clip today is actually just a few days old, but it doesn't show the failure of the person in the video. Rather, it's letting this person speak in the first place that seems to be the fail.
צהריים טובים. לפני שנתחיל להציג את עצמי, אנחנו נגיע ישר לתכלס. הנושא הוא שאנחנו חיים בעולם שטוח ולא כדור ולא עגול.
All right, so that was Matan Golodish, an Israeli flat earther, and he just addressed a class of 9th grade students at Amitz Bar-Ilan High School, where he says that known science is nothing more than guesswork, lies, and gullibility in service of a grand agenda. This is going viral all over Israel right now, and the Israeli Education Ministry is basically saying it's not our fault. We had no idea that this was happening.
Yeah, well, they said, this is not in line with our agenda, with our curriculum. We don't agree with his views, and the school later said, they tried to pass it off as saying that this was just a healthy debate that they were trying to foster, and then later they said...
But yes, a class of 9th graders
Yeah, and
were
then later
taught
they
that
walked that
the
back.
Earth is flat. All right, well, on that note, let's take a look at the weather forecast. All right, tonight will be cloudy and cold with scattered showers and an average low of 51 or 10 degrees Celsius. And then over the weekend, you can expect more clouds and rain and a slight drop in temperatures to an average high of 64 or 18 degrees Celsius.
That's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. I'm Aaron Forrest.
And I'm Natasha Kirchak. Thanks so much for watching.